What's going on, everybody? My name is TrendKiLL, and welcome back to episode 8 of Know Your Enemy. Alright, so let's make this intro short and sweet. If you haven't seen this series before, make sure you check out my Neath guide. That will explain everything that we're going to talk about in this series. Also, if you're new to the game and you want to make sure you understand the basic core mechanics, make sure you check out my beginner's guides. Those will get you caught up on things we may be talking about in this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss Ares, the Greek god of war. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take a look at a graph to show you a visual and statistical representation of Ares. Now, because he is a guardian, he's obviously going to be great at defense. He's got a high amount of control, but other than that, his mobility, utility, healing, they aren't even existent. And his damage could be considered higher than where it shows on the graph because Ares is capable of putting out a ton of damage. However, his damage can be hard to hit and it comes over a long period of time. Somebody like Ymir, who can hit you with his freeze, then his glacial strike, then pop his ultimate to do a ton of damage in, say, 3 or 4 seconds. Ares is going to do probably more damage than Ymir can, but that's going to come over, say, 8 to 10 seconds instead. So that makes the damage that Ares can do easier to mitigate with healing, and it gives people more time to think about how they're going to react to all that damage that's coming. Alright, so let's take a look at his ability so we can see why he has so much control and why he's capable of doing so much damage. First off, his passive Blessed Presence gives him a bonus magical power for every aura item that he finishes. So you can't just start an aura item and get that bonus damage, you have to finish the aura item first. Now you may be thinking, sweet, extra bonus magical power, I'm going to do more damage, I got to build all the aura items in the world. However, don't focus on building too many aura items, and I'll explain why here in a minute as we're talking about his other abilities. Now for his first ability, Shackles, this is Ares' bread and butter. It does a ton of things. First off, if you hit somebody with it, it does a damage over time for a duration of 4 seconds. Secondly, that person that you hit is slowed and crippled, and it makes Ares faster. Now, in addition to all that, if you hit the first chain, you have a 2-second window to cast another chain for free before the ability goes on cooldown. If you hit the second chain, you again have another 2-second window to cast a third chain. Each one of those chains stacks the slow and the speed boost that Ares gets. Now here is a common misconception. It does not stack the damage over time. So that means you do not want to spam your chains as fast as you can. You want to time them out as long as you can so you can stretch out that slow, that cripple, and maximize the amount of damage that it will do. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comment section, but I believe the longest cripple other than Ares in the game is 3 seconds. Ares is capable of an 8-second cripple. That is an intense amount of time. Whew, I gotta take a breather. After explaining all that, Shackles is probably one of my favorite abilities in the game because it does so much and it's such a powerful and potent ability. Now that we talked about that, everything else is going to seem lackluster because that ability is so good. But let's talk about his other abilities. Bolster Defenses is his second ability. This is not a damaging ability at all. It is strictly a buff for him and his teammates. However, it is a very potent buff. At max rank, it's going to give you 40 magical and physical protections and reduce all crowd control that hits you for 30% for a total of 8 seconds. In addition to that, it does that to everybody that's around you as well. So this is a pretty big boost for your team. Now again, in addition to all of that, you get a bonus magical and physical protection of 7 per person that you have shackled. Now you can't just shackle the same person 3 times to get the 21 protections bonus, so you're not going to maximize this at all times. However, it is nice to have that as an option. Now his third ability, Searing Flesh, for a new player is worded kind of poorly. First off, the obvious part, remember that Ares is immune to knockback while he is using his Searing Flesh. I'm not saying that'll come up often, but just understand that if you're trying to knock him away from you and he's using his Searing Flesh, it's not going to work. Now the damage portion of this is what is worded kind of poorly. This ability does 2 types of damage. At max rank, it does 35 damage plus 7% of your magical power in damage every half second for 4 seconds. Now in addition to that damage, this ability has a bonus damage that at max rank does damage equivalent to 3% of your target's max health per tick. So another 8 ticks of 3% health or 24% of your target's max health. That's a lot of damage. Now his last ability, No Escape, this is his ultimate, and this is what makes Ares Ares. Obviously, if you read the ability, you'll know that this is an AoE pull. He is capable of pulling an entire team into a team fight. Now this is a pretty straightforward ability, however, we always touch on the highlights in this section, so I want to make sure you understand that if Ares gets one person, at the end of that pull, that person is stunned for 1 second. If he gets 2 people, both of those people are stunned for 1.2 seconds. If he gets all 5 of the enemy team, all 5 of those people are stunned for 1.8 seconds. So you get a longer stun for the more people that you pull with No Escape. Alright, so on to the mechanics section. Ares doesn't really have a ton of mechanics. He's only really got 2 main abilities, and those abilities are pretty straightforward, so we're going to do our best to fit as many tips in as we can. First off, let's talk about Shackles. Now early on, this ability is completely make or break for Ares. If he hits it, you may be screwed. If he doesn't, he is completely worthless. So if Ares is getting aggressive, misses a chain on you, or you happen to dodge that chain, he has no follow-up and you can really punish that. However, do remember that if he does hit you with all 3 chains, that you are crippled and taking damage for 8 seconds. Again, I can't stress enough how amazing this ability is if he hits all 3 chains, and how screwed he is if he misses the first one. Now, if Ares does happen to hit his Shackles, he's almost always going to follow that up with a Searing Flesh. The reason he's going to follow up his Shackles with Searing Flesh is because you're crippled for 4 seconds after the last Shackle. Searing Flesh is a 4-second ability, so it's a perfect synergy. Now, the combo between 3 Shackles and Searing Flesh is capable of 100 to 0ing a lot of the gods in the game, especially those that are not building defense. So what Ares is capable of doing is making you panic, saying, oh, I have a dash, I have a jump, I have a teleport, I need to get out of this combo. I'm gonna go ahead and use my purification beads to cleanse the cripple so I can jump or dash away. Sounds like a good idea, right? Well, Ares has just baited you into getting your purification beads on cooldown. The next thing he's gonna do is he's gonna square you up for a No Escape. Now you may be thinking, crap, he outsmarted me, now what do I do? Well, there's several options. You've also got Aegis Amulet, that will clear Ares' ultimate. A lot of the gods in the game have an ultimate that grants them CC immunity for a short amount of time. That will get you out of Ares' ultimate. You can also get an item called Magi's Blessing that replenishes a bubble shield around you that will clear 1 form of CC every 45 seconds. That will get you out of Ares' ultimate. So you have a lot of options, which unfortunately really reduces the power that No Escape brings to the game. Ares' ultimate is best in team fights when there's a lot of confusion going on and people might not understand when to time their ability so they don't get pulled, or they've already used their beads to cleanse someone else's CC. If you're playing Ares and you're playing a high action game mode like Arena, and every single person on the enemy team has purification beads, and they also all have ultimates that grant them CC immunity, it's going to be an extreme rarity that you get a pull off on any one of those gods if they're playing smart and they don't want to be pulled. Now, if they use their ultimate aggressively to try to get a kill or something like that, then obviously, yes, you may get a pull, but even still, they're going to be few and far between. So Ares' job is to stay in the fight, stay super annoying with his Shackles and his Searing Flesh, bait out purification beads or some sort of CC immunity, and follow that up with a No Escape for the pull. Now, on the flip side of that, it is not uncommon to see an Ares reverse that and use No Escape to make sure that your purification beads are on cooldown so that somebody else on your team can initiate with crowd control. You do not want to get pulled by Ares, so you will almost always cleanse that ability, which puts you at risk of other crowd control abilities for the next minute and a half. So when or when not to use purification beads, that's going to be a split-second decision, and you're going to have to know what the other enemies on the team are capable of before you cleanse that ultimate. You also have to know the amount of danger that you're in. Is the rest of the team across the map, Ares is by himself and you're at full life and he happens to No Escape you to initiate the fight, you might be safe. So this might be one of those instances where you don't want to cleanse it because you think you can get out of that ability. Now, you still have your purification beads and his ultimate is on cooldown, so at very least, you're safe for the next time when there is an immediate threat with him. This is where critical thinking and decision making is super important in a fast-paced game like Smite. Now, the last thing I want to mention, and I want to make sure I clarify, this is not really a tip, but understand that Aegis Pendant will not get you out of Ares' ultimate. It only grants you damage immunity. Greater Aegis will grant you both. So if you're looking for an item that's going to get you out of Ares' ultimate, Aegis Pendant will not work. So there you go, guys. Hopefully you learned something about Ares today. Hopefully it was easy to understand, and hopefully we see you back next week. We're gonna talk about Mercury, the messenger of the gods.